beautiful day. We'd rather be outside, but it's important to our communities, and I'm glad that we have all of these candidates from Monroe County that are coming. So on that note, Ben, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Juliet. I really appreciate the hospitality up here. I want to say thank you for the visitors viewing remotely, as well as those who came today. What I'd like to do today is have a conversation. I'm not going to sit and talk at you. I'm just going to do a couple of brief overviews of my thoughts, and then I'd like to see your thoughts on the way you think the county is going, as well as the sheriff's office. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce my better half. This is Jelena, and this is my potential undersheriff, Tony Augustine, and his wife, Jamie. Thank you guys for coming. With that, I'd like for Tony to open up and tell his experience and why you think you'd be a good undersheriff. Sure.
How are you doing, everybody? So I'm Tony Augustine. I'm a current deputy here. I've been here since January of last year. We moved up from Colorado. We're a military family. Both of us were military. I started out my career in law enforcement with CID, it's Army's Criminal Investigation Division. So about 2015, I went to the Army's Academy to become a federal law enforcement officer. So we're responsible for investigating felony crimes where the Department of Defense, or now the Department of War, has an interest. So civilians, soldiers, Navy people, sailors, airmen, everybody. And we investigated predominantly persons crimes, so murders, sex crimes, things of that nature, as well as financial crimes, drug interdiction, and things like that. So that's where I met Ben back in 2019, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
Sounds right?
Yes.
So we met in North Carolina. North Carolina is on the east side of the U.S. Huge corridor from Florida to New York and the upper states, where a lot of drugs went through. So that was a lot of our clientele. So some of the training I've had, mostly in crime scenes and investigations that involve sensitive matters. I'm one of the few, I think, that have been to both body farms in the U.S. If you haven't heard of the body farm, sometimes you can donate your body to science. It goes to the body farm and they do studies on how your body reacts when you die. So I've been to both. I taught at one of them down in Texas. So it's something that I wouldn't say enjoy because that's kind of gross, but something that I'm good at. I actually looked it up the other day because I was curious. I'm a certified crime scene analyst, and there are 5 in the state of Montana. Jamie's one of them as well, so that's kind of the breadth of experience that I bring. My last assignment, I was an assistant special agent in charge for about a year before a civilian came in and replaced me. But I was in charge of 4 other supervisors, and we had about 25 special agents that worked under me, so definitely had a lot of experience leading and managing people in cases and investigations, so that's kind of my bread and butter. I also had the opportunity to do the same job overseas, and then a plethora of other management roles and then just investigation roles, so.
Thank you.
That's sufficient.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks, Tony.
I got a question.
Sir.
What brings you to Monroe County?
Good question.
All over where you're in North Carolina,
Yeah.
Colorado, Texas. What brings you to Monroe County? Why Monroe County?
Yeah, so I've been all over the world, right? I've been in a lot of places that are really great. Back in 2024, Ben suggested that I take a look at Montana. There was a job opening coming up at the sheriff's office. Jamie actually went to the University of Montana and studied forensic anthropology, so she was familiar with the area as well. We came up to visit right before I applied for the job, and we loved it. So.
Because I know it's not the money.
No, definitely not the money. No. Made significantly more money where we were. The money's not everything. Money doesn't buy happiness. So we came up here and we loved it. I've grown to love it more. I love the people, love the community. So we're here to stay. We bought 15 acres near Superior that we're building out. So this is home now. This is where we're gonna die, essentially.
So, I just, before we really jump into the meat of this, I know this is from 2 to 5. There is a block. Don't worry, I'm not planning on talking for 3 hours, so I'll try to keep this fairly condensed. So, coming into this, before I get into my experience, I just want to let you guys know the lens I'm looking through when it comes to law enforcement and life, essentially. So number 1 is I'm a Christian. Number 2, a husband. 3, a father, and then everything after that will shake out. So those are my, I guess, trifecta of importance in my life.
How many kids you got?
I have 2 kids. They are not here today. It is, as you can tell, pretty quiet. They are 5 and 8. They currently are at a babysitter right now.
Boys and girls or girls?
Both girls. I'm a girl dad, so
I got 5 daughters.
God bless you.
Boy, now you get it.
God bless you. You are a patient man then. So I every day is a learning event with daughters, and I think it's really gave me a great perspective, especially when it kind of comes to law enforcement in certain aspects of it. So I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when it came.
Don't worry, they'll fix it. They'll take care of you.
Oh goodness. Yeah, that's a.
Hey, my girls take care of me.
Yeah.
They keep you alive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you bring your children with you.
Yep.
So, where I come from is I went to the University of Montana. I got a degree in sociology, criminology. I got a scholarship for ROTC, and from there I was a reserve deputy in Missoula for a couple of years, until I commissioned in the Army as a second lieutenant in the field artillery. During that time, it was the Iraq, surge. So I was a forward observer, and what that means is call in fire support when things get sideways and finish the fight. And after that, I served about a year in Forest County, Mississippi as a deputy down there. And while I was still on active duty, I was a reserve deputy down there. And then I had the privilege of, once I made captain, I had the privilege of taking command of an artillery battery. And what that means is I had 130 hard charging soldiers under my command. Some were co-located with me, some were remote. So that really educated me on how to run an organization, a dynamic organization, as well as one that the personnel is constantly changing. After that, I got selected for major, and I realized the rest of my career was going to be behind a desk, and I decided that's not exactly what I wanted to do. There was an opportunity through the Army to become a federal agent. Basically, under CID, I went from major to a chief warrant officer and became a federal agent. I did that about 5 years and primarily investigated homicides, death crimes, sexual assaults, things of that nature, and ended up as a supervisory special agent. During my time as an SSA, I had about 10 to 15 agents, and we were conducting nothing but felony level investigations. I came to Mineral County, or excuse me, once I completed that, I retired from the Army after 20 years, and I came here. I had been familiar with the area from my time in college, and in my opinion, this Mineral County is the prettiest place I've ever been. I love it here, and we had done some research, prayed about it, and a piece of property came open, and we took the leap of faith. I made about 6 months of being retired until I started to get too antsy. My beautiful wife kept me hopping and popping, and I knew I needed to slow things down, so I went to work. So I worked at Mineral County for about 1.5 years and stepped away, and I'll go into the reasons why a little bit later. At my time at Mineral County, I really fell in love with this county a lot more because of the people and how beautiful it is. After that, I came to, I decided to go to Montana Division of Criminal Investigation, and they're a state level investigative entity that does, again, investigations, primarily death investigations and investigations involving law enforcement. I did that for about 6 months, and the Brady decision against the incumbent came out, and that was really the straw that broke the camel's back for me. I am a member of this community and a stakeholder. With having my children, I knew that decision was going to inhibit the sheriff's office as we know it, and so that's when I decided to put my name in the hat for sheriff. Practical and investigative experience in law enforcement experience I have is I've worked several hundred death investigations, several hundred sexual assault investigations. I've conducted FEMA courses and FEMA training, domestic violence intervention training, focusing on strangulation, forensics training, drug suppression training, as well as evidence management. So that's a little bit about my background as far as experience. Today, what I kind of want to go over is the platform I'm running on. I would like to, thank you. I would like to just say the base of my platform is respect for Mineral County. And what I mean by respect for Mineral County is kind of 3 tiers: people, resources, and rule of law. With the people, that includes the citizens as well as employees. In the past couple weeks, as I've decided to do this, I've had a lot of people come up to me and talk about the lack of trust in the sheriff's office, the fear of retribution with the sheriff's office, the pretty much the lack of faith, and that is extremely hard for me to hear as a professional.
Shoot, if I'm calling something, I'm calling Central County right now at this point.
You know what? You're not the first person to say that.
Actually, I'm calling MHP, but.
Yeah. So, and there is a institutional issue going on there, and I'd like to. I have a couple courses of action on how how we get a hold of the issues. And when I say respect for people, I also mean employees, all of them, to include the jail and the deputies. There will be, everything will be fair and equitable, and I want to make it a place that people are excited to work at, not fear going in, not being miserable every day. Also, as far as our respect for mineral as well is the resources. We have a finite amount of resources in Mineral County, and I would like to take the time to maximize our resources through cost-effective training, budget management, and creative ways to fix the deficit that the previous administration has incurred. Currently, it's about $600,000, which is quite a bit. And the third tier of respect for mineral is the rule of law. Our current situation in mineral, everything is adversarial. The relationship between the sheriff's office and the county attorney's office is adversarial. The sheriff's office and several other outside organizations is adversarial, and I want to use my leadership to sync them together, because at the end of the day, the sheriff's office works for you. I'm a big proponent in law enforcement is the epitome of public servants. Our job is to keep you safe. And the sheriff is not the king of the county. The sheriff is the lead public servant. There has been several people who have brought to me the fact that they feel like the current administration just runs rogue and does whatever they want without fear of consequences. So I want to change the culture within the sheriff's office to remind them that, hey, you guys work for the people and we're going to act like it. 3 examples of things I want to change. And I kind of hit on this is the people. I want to work extremely diligently with the staff of the sheriff's office to change the culture. I know quite a few of you in here have had negative interactions with the sheriff's office, which inhibits the trust. And again, coming in, I want to train them and work on their de-escalation and remind them again, they work for you, period. Also, I want to work on their professionalism and our professionalism as an organization. The way we achieve such matters is through comprehensive, realistic training. Through my time as with the sheriff's office, the training was rather abysmal. The majority of the training was online training, clicking through, and boom, we're done for the day to meet the basic post standards. That is unsatisfactory. We have the ability to do cost-effective training within this county by using the resources we already have. We have a bunch of subject matter experts already trained. We have a subject matter here on who has literally taught forensics and investigations throughout the country. I want to leverage that experience and train our deputies to the lowest level. I want to also look at our resources. So the way I'd like to address this is the long-term planning of resource allocation and management. Currently, within the sheriff's office, there is not a long-term plan that in calendar briefs on things we want to do and things we need to procure. And that needs to change. I want to make this a professional organization. It's like running any business. You have to have long-term goals, you have to have a calendar, you have to have projections. And none of that is currently happening. As well as a bidding process on the way we procure items. Currently, they just go out and buy it without a bidding process similar to the federal and state agencies, and as well as using what we have. The taxpayers have been extremely gracious, and Mineral County does have a lot of great equipment. We need to make sure we are using maintenance schedules to maximize what we have and take care of what we have so we're not constantly buying new equipment. And rule of law. So I briefly hit on it earlier with the adversarial stuff. So we do not have a clear prosecutorial line per se in Mineral County. The sheriff's office and the county attorney's office historically has not worked well together. What I would like to do is have legal syncs and go over the different cases and the different statuses of said cases through using PowerPoint, and go over with the lawyers how we can improve each case, where each case stands, and through that we're going to build a cohesive bond, and also allowing training from the legal standpoint from our legal experts. So, as far as perceived issues with me as the sheriff, experience, I've kind of gone over a little bit of experience. The incumbent's going to say I do not have experience, which I'm kind of surprised about, because he had my resume, and I have been with quite at the federal, state, and local levels of law enforcement. My experience in leadership, running a military organization, and I have supervised about 200 to 300 people throughout my career. I believe that taking over the sheriff's office, there will be a learning curve, but I think it will be a fairly short learning curve. I hope to be completely functional and 100% on day-to-day operations within 3 to 5 months. Family readiness. My family is the base of who I am. They have always been a supportive group, and thank you for running the household when I am not here. Through being a special agent and agent with DCI, there were several times that I'd be gone for days, weeks, whatever, depending on the case, and I'm okay with that, and my family is prepared for that. You will not hear me getting up complaining about overtime. When you're a salaried position, you know what you're getting into. My previous experiences, I've worked 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and that's just the way it is to get the job done. And I'm sure many of people in this room, especially those who have run their own businesses, understand the time investment that you have to do in order to make it happen. So I'm completely okay with what the county has allotted, and you'll see me put my big boy pants on and make it happen. And also, every penny that I've ever earned is here in Mineral County. I've been a lot of places in the world, and this is home. I want to be my ashes spread up on the mountain where we live. We currently are up in the Tamarack area, and to me it is heaven on earth. My family is here. I want my kids to grow up in an outdoor, rural environment. Even if I do not get elected, I'm not going to be leaving. The day I decided to tell the incumbent that I was running, I had enough respect for him to walk in his office and sit down. And during that conversation, I explained to him that I was running, and of course he tried to talk me out of it. I had already made my mind up that I was going to do it. And during that, he told me as soon as he has a chance, he's selling his house and getting the hell out of here. And to me, as a citizen, that really hurt, knowing that he's just looking at this as a job, and he's just trying to get his retirement enrolled. And I am invested here till forever, regardless. My wife is the owner of the Moxie Market in St. Regis, so if things don't shake out, I'm going to be there doing, I don't know, whatever she wants me to do. So, but yeah, that's one thing I've learned in life is you don't stir up mama. But with that, and leaving Mineral County. So, deciding to work for Mineral County, after about 6 months of retirement, I was pretty jazzed up. I knew what the pay was. It is what it is. Mineral County starts about 25. Missoula County starts about 37. It is what it is. So I knew that going in. And so the monetary issue was a non-factor because I am thankful enough to be able to draw my retirement from my military time. That being said, I wanted to be there, but I'm not going to. And I stayed for about a year and a half, and the leadership that I saw there, in my opinion, was substandard. I'm not going to work at an agency where I dread coming to work every day through micromanagement and negativity and the bad-mouthing of other employees behind their back and the citizens of the county behind their back. So I decided to look elsewhere and go to DCI. Though my time at DCI, this Mineral County was still my area of operations, and I never left. So, but I am hoping I have the privilege to become sheriff so that I can right this ship and restore public trust in the sheriff's office. So, with that, that's enough me talking at you. I'd like to have a conversation, sir.
Confiscation of private property,
Okay.
specifically task forcing with federal partners.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What are your plans for that, if any?
So let me get this straight, so I know that I understand your question.
What's commonly called civil asset forfeiture.
Okay, so all of that. Let me start with the partnering with the federals before I get to the asset forfeiture. So I've been asked several times, do you plan on working with ICE, this, that, and the other? That, as a leader of the law enforcement organization, I will look at that on a case-by-case basis in regards to see what their plan is. I am a firm believer in people's right to their public or their private property, and so the asset forfeiture that comes later. in an investigation and through the legal adjudication. So that would be at the tail end of an investigation. So it's not like the law enforcement is just coming out there and just taking items. If it is ordered by a judge, will I enforce it? Yes. However, I do not take that order lightly. So
If I may follow.
yes, sir.
Okay, so the common actual practice is local level,
Mm-hmm.
I call it confiscation,
Mm-hmm.
seizure, done without a warrant, done without having to show probable cause to anyone outside the task force. That happens, okay? So when you say case by case, or do you foresee a case where you would do that? Confiscate, no warrant, no showing the probable cause. It's part of a federal local task force.
No, because you have to have probable cause for anything you do.
You should, but the thing is, you don't have to show it when you're part of a task force.
I think it happens all the time on the interstate highways where people get pulled over.
Mm-hmm.
Officer says, do you have any drugs or large amounts of cash? And people will say, oh yeah, I have some cash, and then they just take it. And this does happen in the United States. I don't know if it happens in Mineral County, but I know it happens in the United States.
Okay.
It also happens in airports, unless of course you're a Samoan who got it through fraud. Then of course it goes through, which means the federal government's probably in on it too. Or at
That'll
least
change
people-
Monday, maybe.
People with, what's that?
It might change Monday
Monday?
at the airports.
Oh, yeah. But anyways, I think to what he's saying, even though you may not be aware of it, and hopefully it doesn't happen in this county, there are places where a person just driving down the road gets pulled over, whether they're some kind of alert from the license plate readers or whatever, and the police officer asks them about cash, and they just take the cash. Because the person, and they don't charge them with the crime. That's the problem. They don't even charge them with the crime. And then the person, if they want to get their money back, they have to hire an attorney, and they spend more money than you can understand how that would amount.
Yes.
But since you're not aware of it, I'm going to assume that you wouldn't support that, and you wouldn't do that.
Yes.
And as far as civil asset forfeiture, when someone's been charged with a crime, convicted with a crime, that's a totally different thing. A judge's order, what I'm talking about, there's no judge's order, it's just seizure. And you can find videos on YouTube where this happens in airports all the time. Anyways, I'll shut up.
I appreciate
You go on with your thing. If you're not into steal, because see, to me, that's theft.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you're a judge, I don't care if it's legal. That is theft. And it's wrong. And anybody who would do that, whether they have a perceived authority or actual authority, is irrelevant. Far worse than a guy coming in, I mean, it's just horrible. You can understand when someone in authority abuses his power like that.
Absolutely.
Anyways, I'll shut up.
Final follow-up.
Yes, sir.
So, to my knowledge, the incumbent has signed several of these memorandum of understanding, but again, to my knowledge, he hasn't actually confiscated. So he's got the picture of the paper, but he hasn't actually done it. That's all.
I have not seen any of the current MOUs, so I cannot speak to that.
HP and Customs and Border Patrol did a 5-day enforcement up here that was responsible for 51 arrests, 41 of them were referred for CBP. And Brian took credit for the massive quantity of all 3 drugs. But when I saw him and bought him dinner up here, Mineral County wasn't with him. So I guess my follow-up to Bill is, are you comfortable challenging those that are working on those MOUs? Say someone complains and says, they stole my electronic equipment and they were looking for drugs. Are you comfortable, because it's your county, you sign the MOU with them, are you comfortable reining them in if you have complaints or concerns?
Absolutely. So, as the chief law enforcement officer in the county, that would be definitely my purview. I believe in the checks and balances, so if there was that complaint, I would absolutely look into it, either with myself or a disinterested party, such as DCI, just so there is complete transparency on the issue. But absolutely, I have no problem being a former federal employee. I don't have
So you're
issue
very
with.
clear on,
Yep.
it's your county to.
Yes, correct.
Oversight, not
Correct.
their county to come into.
That is correct. So, next question.
That's a hard one.
Oh,
I got lots.
Yes, ma'am.
Toe rotation, are you just gonna give it to your friend, or are you gonna
I-
let the toe rotation go?
So, great question. Thank you. Figured that one was coming.
Oh, I'm sure see the log in.
Yeah, so, I believe in fair and equitability throughout all aspects. So, the budget, that's not my money. That's the county's money, paid through taxes. And so as long as the tow companies fall within the parameters of what is required, I'm completely open to a tow rotation similar to what Highway Patrol uses.
So will you put out a letter saying what the qualifications are, so we know what we're looking for?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
I have another question, if I can keep going.
yes.
So I want to clear the rumor. I was told that one, Mineral County, you are over MHP. You rank MHP over them. Is that true?
And the reason we were told that is because you're an elected official, a sheriff is an elected official.
Yes.
So they, the sheriff's department and the sheriff themselves, being an elected official is actually up over highway patrol. You can choose to take over a scene if the sheriff's department decides to.
So that is kind of a tricky one. If it's in the county, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer. However, that being said, there needs to be some prudency as far as coming in and taking over a scene. I believe in partnering with the outside agencies and working with, not against them. So, though the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer, I would approach each scene individually. And I don't know what you're, I guess, referring to.
It's just a question.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not going, okay, he said this, he
Okay.
said
Yeah,
that.
I'm
It's
just
just.
curious.
I gotcha.
I thought MHP trumped you guys, say, on the interstate. But we were like, no, the sheriff is the head.
Mhm.
But that kind of leads to another question. Rumor I heard is the deputies are told not to go in the West End during snowstorms and stuff. And I have personally heard a call go in and it be said, no one on duty, give it to MHP. And I'm sorry, I was here for the last sheriff's talk, and I didn't agree with, I understand I've got 5 kids, youngest 8, oldest 26.
Yep.
And this past winter, my little one goes, if they're saying everyone stay home, why are you going to work? Because it's our job.
Yep.
You know, and I'm sorry, you're an elected, you want this job, you want us to vote you for this job.
Absolutely.
Why are y'all coming out helping us too?
Last my neighbors calling me to go up and help them with a car that just drove through the field.
Because there's no
After
one
they
there.
called Mineral County.
So-
And in these storms, we need the most help we can get, because these
Yep.
truckers don't want to put chains on, they don't want to move. And we hear, there's no one on duty, calling MHP, so now we're waiting for planes for someone to get down
Yep.
here to help us do our jobs.
Yes.
And I love my job, I'm not giving up my job, my children understand,
Mhm.
and that is who they are, and they'll be stronger, they're great drivers because of our jobs.
Mhm.
But it sucks, because there's no support from Mineral County out here.
And our oldest girls, when they're not back doing their normal jobs, they'll come here on vacation, work with us doing tough.
We have one who works daily.
We have one that runs large records, she's 23 years old and had her CDL since she's 5. And
That's
she
what I'm talking about.
graduated from Bozeman.
She should be running for
Congratulations, that's awesome. Yes, I literally have been told before, in the winter, the county line, ends at exit 33. And I am adamantly against that. We have the ability to patrol the entire county. The county is 77 miles long. That means we're going to, take care of the entire county. We do have 2 trucks. Yes, they're with the current sheriff and undersheriff, but I find that interesting when in the winter months, the people that likely would need it are on patrol. From what I understand, I can't be 100% sure on this, as a knee-jerk reaction from the meeting with the sheriff, there has been word to come out here, so you may start to see deputies out here. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, of course, he's trying to get everybody's vote, now he's gonna start saying this one.
I'll say, I've seen them walking through the hideout, but I haven't seen them walking through Lincoln.
My God, you just let him know you fear for your life, he'll park right there in the corner, wait for me to leave.
See, we've actually seen the deputy out there a couple of times this week, which is equivalent to the rest of the year.
If I need the sheriff's department, I can get a hold of my neighbor, hey, call the sheriff, tell them I'm threatening you or something, they'll be here in a minute.
Yes, sir. Sorry, what, huh?
Did you have some questions?
Yes, so one of the things that I in the past as when I was a deputy, we had issues with our tires. Thankfully, the incumbent decided to put a little bit of money into that, but there were several times things got a little squirrely out there on the road because of less than serviceable tires. Safety is number one, whether it's for the deputies or the citizens. We have the ability to come out here during the winter. That being said, I think it would be prudent to kind of station someone out here instead of just driving up and down the interstate. But we have the people, and what I want to do if I get elected as sheriff is start a reserve or part-time program to supplement our numbers. We have quite a few former law enforcement and very well qualified people in this area that could help us out. Julia.
So, going off what Sean and Amy were talking about, the dispatch for accidents and things up on the west end here, the fire department gets thrown under the bus way too often. Nowhere else in the county do I hear them dispatch out West End Fire Department for traffic control. And if they're going to do that, that's usually because MHP isn't coming or not in a timely manner. And so having a law enforcement come to the scene when you're doing that, number one, those truck drivers might even get the clue. Well, carrier services, I'd love to see them start coming up in the
We're
winter.
pulling the pass, all we ask for is one officer
Yep.
to be up there, to get these guys chained up, that way we can get them rolling. We've run up there many a times just to help guys get rolling and not even pull a truck.
Yep.
We had, both of us went up there, because they had the whole pass shut down. And one highway patrol was up there, and they wouldn't leave, so I started walking door to door. I'm like, can you move or you stop? No, I can move. I'm like, you might want to get going, or I'm gonna tell you, and you're gonna pay a toll. And all of a sudden, before you know it, all the trucks are starting to roll up the pass. All we need, ourselves, we're doing it, we need one patrol and a plow truck. But the problem is, the plow truck can't get through if the whole highway's blocked. So we usually get I like to try at least one lane going, get them rolling, and then send the plow truck as soon as everybody's rolling.
Yep. So
I'm not sure where that decision comes from when they dispatch it like that, but if that's a dispatch policy, maybe it needs to be looked at. If it's an MHP policy, then maybe it also needs to be looked at. At one point in time, Frank, was there compensation for when we would get called out for that? when MHP would have us, traffic control, especially between the two and the top.
We would get compensation from the truck drivers themselves. If we don't get anything from them,
No, you don't get
or anything. We
See,
don't get anything
that's,
from them, no.
that's not okay.
If
We're
we
out
get-
there
If we get
risking.
called out for traffic control, and if there's an accident, a lot of times, because the sheriff, the highway patrol won't be there for several hours or something, they'll say, we need traffic control to take.
They've done it for just truck stop like you guys have had to put up with.
Yeah, we,
You know, where it's not an accident, it's just,
Yeah,
They're
we
not
can call
there.
out for that too, yeah.
and that maybe
If
that's
there's
an
traffic jam,
MOU
we
or
can
something
call
we
out
need
for
to
that.
look at, because that's a risky situation for volunteers, and it's some of the reason why I think we lose volunteers.
I have my own traffic control, so when there's an accident, I bring my own.
Oh, no, I know you guys have gotten way good at that.
Yeah, the hill is extremely dangerous. And there has been an attitude towards, stuff on the highway. That's a highway patrol problem. Last time I checked, from mile markers, 1 to 77, that's us, or 0, excuse me. That's in the county. There will be, because, and for those of you who don't know, the highway patrol, the unit that covers here, they sometimes can be all the way up in Thompson Falls. And then they get a call on the pass. Yeah, that is not a timely response. So the logical response would be, if there's not an emergent call from the sheriff's office, or if there's not an emergent call in progress with the sheriff's office, why not send a deputy up there? They have the pretty blue lights for a reason. So that is something that I will make sure we're preserving public safety by having someone up there. And the chain issue, when was it?
have a meeting and talk, everybody get together.
Yeah.
But I mean, because, you know, on the rotation system in MHP,
Yeah.
I'm pulling the hill, from the 10-mile marker top of pass, we run what they call a clearance call. One company has odds, the other one runs on evens. So, you know, we're ready when it comes to, you know, our day to go up there and start pulling it, and, you know, we're ready to go.
It works
So
really
it works really well, because then you don't have three companies up there fighting over, bidding over who's gonna pull this guy for the cheapest when you need to get them going and get the highway
Yep.
going.
And, you know, at the end of the day, it's the county's money.
And if they didn't wanna be stuck, they should have chained up.
Yeah.
Because we go up there with our records and we pull trucks with no chains on them. Our records that we're pulling trucks that are chained up, we're pulling them up the pass with our records. And we don't have chains and we're pulling them to the top. They're trucks that are chained up. And they like to argue with us in the price, go, well, you're chained up and you're stuck and we're pulling you with no chains. Then they just shut up and pay.
Yeah, that's,
You've responded to Rex up there.
I have, yep. That Christmas party 2 years ago, where I think there was, like 17 trucks or something like that. And it was a solid sheet of ice up there, and trailers were basically cut in half. And
Actually, he was there that night.
was that?
I was there, I was the first one there that night.
Yeah, that's it. That is an incredibly dangerous situation.
And an example on how we need to get help.
Yep, and you know that's an example of I couldn't make it all the way to the top because there was blockage, but I do understand the realities of specifically that area.
So I had my daughter in a Jeep with me, we were coming back from Idaho, she was in volleyball. She does volleyball, football over there.
Our kids go to school.
So I seen what was going on. Well, I don't park, I tell everybody, do not park behind these semis.
Mhm.
Park ahead. Now, if they're gonna start slamming in, they'll leave the park, you know,
Yep.
you're safe. So I parked ahead of 2 semis, and here it comes, I just sat there and watched it. Oh, this is not good. And I jumped over the snowbank, knowing that there might be parts flying. I watched the semi-trailer suspension go flipping in the air 20 feet in the air. I've never seen semi-truck trailer suspensions go flipping in the air 20 feet. Holy shit!
You know, that is a sketchy
And all
sketchy
that-
set of road.
All that driver had to do was let off the brakes. That's all he had to do. When he hit that bridge, if he let off the brakes, it would straighten the trailer right out. He'd been going too fast, but he made it through.
Absolutely. Ma'am?
Are you going to be hiring any more deputies so that there's more coverage than what there is now? Because I know, with the deputies that they've got now, they're so thin that we're not covered at all.
They are not that thin on deputies. There is a deal on uncensored pigs, they have deputies sitting in Tarkio watching pigs.
That,
We'll be down to 4 next month, he said, because he's sending 2 to post.
yes, allegedly.
I'll let Tony speak to that.
Do you like to speak to that?
Yeah, so I should be going to the academy next month, for a 1-week course, and then, the DUI course after that. I don't know if our new hire is going in April as well, or May.
But I find it, like this is an opportunity where using the calendar and syncing would have benefited, because now you're essentially taking two deputies off the road, and when it could have been staggered and kept more coverage. As far as your question, so if I get elected, I do expect there will be some turnover. There are some deputies that probably won't stay with us. So that the first priority will be to fill those positions. Long term, I would absolutely like to find more billets for positions, but that's going to be a financial discussion with the commissioners. In the meantime, what I would like to do is augment them with reserves and part-time. So putting a reserve in with a full-time guy will allow there to be 2 in a car, so the other deputy on can still be somewhere else. So covering a larger amount of ground essentially. So
what are your expectations, or how are you going to keep the deputies that when you do hire them on, how do you keep them after they get their time in because of the pay being so low?
Yep.
They take off, and I mean, I've seen this years.
Yep.
I mean, it's not just this last one that's been, ongoing ever since we've moved up here. And it's like, once they get their time in, they're out of here,
Yep.
and it's like it's a revolving door. So what can you do to stop that revolving door?
Okay, wonderful question. There's a lot of the deputies who are not. Pay is important, yes, but most of them. Oh, you're good. Most of them, or all of them, know what the pay is coming in. I think the big difference is hiring practices, so we can find guys that.
She's an EMT, so she's good.
Okay.
You can circle back to that one.
Yeah, I'll get back to it. You're good.
That's good, it's not, it's down there.
Okay. So,
It's something that will go over here. That's all.
okay. What I would like to do is hiring folks with, that are not as much financially motivated. What I mean by that is guys who are later in their career, and like me, there's a lot of guys that are on their second careers. So looking at seeing if we can find folks like that. But the biggest difference is morale. We all know what it is coming in payment wise. But if you dread coming to work, why do it? And I know for a fact, some of the people that have left here, it wasn't because of pay. It was because of dreading coming to work through substandard leadership. I want to change that by encouraging people to take time off, encouraging people to bring their families around, building a family at the sheriff's office. The current culture is not like that. So I think if we invest in the deputies, by letting them enjoy our amazing county and being able to take time off, and if that means the sheriff or the undersheriff covering a shift, that's okay, because at the end of the day, we're cops too. So, and Tony and I would both, neither of us are on the Brady list, so that's a plus as well. So,
I
we,
guess I have a question, what the
Yes.
heck is the breeding list? I mean, I've read it and it doesn't make sense to me.
Anytime he testifies, he has to bring up his past.
yeah,
Any monster.
I will get into that. Did you have something that needs to go in before that? Okay, so, okay, we'll get to it.
I got a question to add on her question.
Okay,
So with her question of, what would be your goal to have 4 sheriffs? You know, like right now they got, what they say, 6 sheriffs or something, or 6 deputies? 6, so what would be your end goal on having, 10, or 11, 12, 8, to run and operate the county?
And where would you get the money?
And where
Yes.
would you get the money?
yes, so the money is the crux of the
Right.
equation. My goal, number-wise, would be whatever it takes to get 24-hour operations. We currently do not have 24-hour coverage. So sitting down and working through a manning matrix to figure that out would be what number that would be. I believe we looked at it and it was it 8? 8 to, at bare minimum, to do a 24-hour coverage. So what I would like to do is take a deep dive looking at grants, such as COPS grants, such as other grants, to see if we could get the additional allocations. In the meantime, using reserves to augment. That's not going to be an easy task, but that is something that is on my long-term plan on seeing how we can get additional billets for positions. And if it comes down to a mill levy, I am resistant to that, but if that's the only way to do that, that would be a discussion that I would like to have with the community.
Well, they would get a vote on it.
Yes. Well, even before that, even before the vote, having a proposal meeting. Yeah.
Plan on that, I assume that you intend to be a working sheriff.
Yes.
How? It sounds like there's a lot of administration top heavy,
Yep.
especially in your first year.
Yep.
But right now, we've been told that there's an incentive work program that if you work harder than others, I didn't understand it, but how? Are you counting on your undersheriff to be the desk jockey, or are you
So,
looking at
I'll be,
even a lower position that's qualified to be an assistant within your
Yep.
department?
So, wonderful question. I'll be completely transparent. I do not like being behind a desk. I'm a free spirit. So, with that, I would like to see if we could secure funding through working with the commissioners for possibly an administrative assistant. That is going to take a lot of financial analysis to see if we can do that. But that would be, in a perfect world, where we would like to get to. As far as additional roles, Tony is probably one of the best investigators I've ever met. So he will be doing investigations on top of what other undersheriff duties. As far as me, I want to be out there, I want to be seen, want to be interacting with the community, building that dialogue with the community, and out from behind my desk as much as humanly possible.
You've had some people offer to volunteer, haven't you?
Yes, we have had people offer to volunteer to be an administrative assistant, which is an incredibly kind offer. And I would like to sit down with the lawyers and make sure that's a go, and possibly take them up on that. So, did that answer your question, or?
It did. I
Okay.
have one on top of that.
Okay, I'll come back to you, sir.
That was exactly my suggestion, was an administrative assistant who was a volunteer. That might be a possibility for some of these other retired law enforcement officers who maybe don't want to go out in the field anymore, but might be in a position to do what you need to be done.
Absolutely. The amount of experience in this county is mind-blowing. I don't want to name names, but I've had quite a few people come up to me and say, hey, I have done this in my career. I would like to help, but I don't want to be full-time, or I don't want to be, essentially on the schedule.
Yeah.
So that's a great opportunity.
And that might translate to a PAO, potentially?
Yep, that's another good, another good segment, is a public affairs office. Something that worked really well for us on the federal side as well as the military is we had a public affairs officer. That helps create transparency with the organization. I've seen it done with through a Facebook page and through the identification of a individual PAO. Basically, your one-stop shop on who to talk to get information out. It typically is an additional duty, so I want to look at the staff we already have and get a PAO, so you guys are knowing what is happening on a weekly and daily basis, and at bare minimum a monthly, and that kind of leads me into my next segue to the transparency. I know the incumbent has talked about an open door policy, which the open door is behind multiple closed doors, so I find that kind of interesting. But I don't
She had to
think.
make an appointment for the open door, by the way.
No, she got in trouble because she did it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what I meant, she had to make an appointment for the.
I have heard such things.
Don't bring anybody with you, you'll be ambushing.
So once a month, I want to have a meeting in the commissioner's room and put myself and my undersheriff in front of the public. To have a dialogue with the community, because you can't fix problems if you don't know what the problems are. And I want to have a conversation with the community, like, hey, this is the issues we're seeing, this is how we can mitigate these issues, this is how we can grow. And it be open to everyone. You don't have to make an appointment, just come and have a talk with your sheriff. And I don't know if that would be like the 15th of the month or whatnot, but that is a goal that I want to have and have on the calendar and have those dates published on the Mineral County Facebook page or Mineral County Sheriff's Office Facebook page, and even run an ad in the paper every now and then to make sure people know how to interact with you. Because at the end of the day, there's not a lot of trust in our sheriff's office right now by the majority of the county. And my number one goal is to restore that faith back into our office. And I want people to be excited to see us instead of shying away from us. So it's not going to be an overnight fix, but that is where I want to trend to. So
Ben's really good at constructive criticism. I've tested him.
that is a.
So the previous sheriff made a lot of promises, and they never came through. And I'm sure it's probably, the same thing that what you guys run into as working for the sheriff's office. Is this gonna be the same song and dance, or are we gonna, we're actually gonna try to get some stuff done in the community as far as like, we have drug problems, like every other community, are we gonna try to, help these people that have a drug problem, find solutions on, if they get busted, a probation system to where, they need to go volunteer so many hours with the fire department, or volunteer with the sheriff's department to help get them on proper channels and right track.
That's a great question, Sean. So, the public is the checks and balances to the sheriff's office. I'm okay with you criticizing the professional operations of the sheriff's office. I don't see it. I see a difference between professional criticism and personal attack. There's a difference. I expect the people of the county to hold the sheriff's office accountable because we work for you. The sheriff is not the county king. So if I'm not living up to a standard, I encourage people to come and talk to me about that. And that's why I want to do that monthly meeting so those issues can be brought up. As far as working through the known issues in the county, what I would like to implement is a priority, basically once I get into office, is prioritization of issues. And then start working down the list on how to solve these issues. And some of my top issues right now are mass casualties, domestic violence issues, mass shooters. There are several soft targets in our county that we need to tighten up, specifically with the schools. And so those are all on my radar on projects that I want to dive into. Drugs is one of them, but I feel that shoring up the schools is higher than the drugs. That being said, we have so much talent in the drug stuff that I want to work on some of the drug tasks that need doing. And if you would like, I will explain to you one-on-one about that. So, okay, who's next? Ma'am, I haven't heard from you.
But the amount of drug running
Yep.
goes on. Who do we contact? Now, I live in Hagen,
Mhm.
and I see a lot of suspicious things.
Yep.
My husband was a truck driver, and I would be up at 2, 3 in the morning to get him on the road.
Yep.
And we would see people on the railroad trail, cars, at 2, 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
You know that there's something going on.
Absolutely.
Who do we contact? Do we contact the highway patrol, or do we contact you?
Us. We are the primary law enforcement agency in the county, and if for some reason we don't have availability to get someone there, we will facilitate getting someone there. Even if currently we don't have 24-hour operations, that's publicly known. Even if that requires calling a deputy out of bed, so be it. Because this side of the county is just as important as downtown Superior. So, I think you were next, ma'am.
I know in the past when we've had ambulance calls and we've had people with suicidal or aggression issues and stuff, how are you going to, and in the past it's been like pulling teeth to get deputy to write down on the ambulance to the hospital when we don't feel safe in the back of the ambulance. Is there any kind of stipulations and stuff that can be set up, or that to make transporting in the ambulance service
Yep.
easier and
So,
safer?
I have, in previous agencies, or previous sheriff's office, I have, ridden in the back with the EMTs because of, combative patients. That is a standard practice in law enforcement. So, the pros to that, obviously, are, the EMTs are safer. At minimum, what I'd like to offer is having a chase vehicle, like right behind the ambulance. Preferably for you guys, having a deputy in the back would be better. It's all gonna be situation dependent. If there's multiple deputies out, they'd be more likely to be able to get into the back of the rig, because you're gonna have to leave a vehicle and ferry back to it to get it later.
Or if they have reservists with them.
And this is a prime example for having a reserve with our deputies. You have 2 people to a car, you don't have to worry about that near as much. So I am completely for in those situations having deputy support. I just don't know what that looks like per situation.
Okay.
So.
Because I know there's been lots of times where since I live up here,
Mhm.
I drive down on the ambulance.
Yep.
And then I have to find a way back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and knock on wood, I've always had somebody, come and, say, yeah, I can take you, or have 3 other people say, if you need me, call me, and that. But, I know there's been times where we've had a deputy ride down with us and that. But there's also been times where they says, well, we don't have enough manpower.
Mhm.
And it's like, you know what, we're in the back,
Mm-hmm.
we have nothing to protect ourselves. If Joe or whoever,
Just give them a shot in the arm, make them pass out.
You know. The big white duct tape. Spine board. Works like a duct tape.
So your issue kind of brings another point of is interagency, working together with all the agency. I know there's friction between the sheriff and certain agencies, and that's something I want to alleviate, is because at the end of the day, the fire, EMT, law enforcement, we're all on the same team. And being able to sync together, work together, train together, I think will be the lubricant to get those types of situations taken care of. So.
because I know there's been times where I've been in the back by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and thank God that he was watching over me, because there was one time he was drunk, he was belligerent, and I was handling it really well, but there it started escalating.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for the highway patrol opening the door and saying, is everything okay? And I'm saying, I would have been in a position where I couldn't, fought off what he, with him in the back.
Thank you for bringing that
So, I
up.
mean, it happens just like that. It's not just a one-time thing.
That is something that we will, I want to have a conversation with the EMTs about specifically.
I mean, we don't ask all the time.
Yeah, but we need to have a contingency. This is one of the situations we need to have a plan for, instead of just on the spot trying to figure it out, have a standard operating procedure for these types of situations.
And like right now, I'm up here doing EMT for the ambulance service, but I'm associated with them, but I use my own vehicle. And so, when I go out, a lot of times I'm not going out in the middle of the night on the side of the road anymore,
Yep.
because I don't, by myself, I can't. And, the other day, when we got called out, there was a standby. Well, it really wasn't a standby. Highway Patrol was out there with the intoxicated man. And I saw him over there and it's like, well, I'm supposed to stage, but I wanna let him know that I was here. And it kinda ended up after everything got resolved, but he was by himself, I was by myself, and we didn't get the deputies up there because even in dispatch, it wasn't dispatched as needing,
I see.
the sheriff's office up there. And it was like, you know, and he was a new recruit from what I understand. And it was kind of hairy there for a little bit, especially when he started swinging and moving around. And I noticed that lately there's not a lot of deputies up at this end.
Well, that is a focus of mine to make sure the deputies get a fair coverage of the county. So, and I would like to work with fire and EMS specifically on building an SOP for that. So, ma'am?
So, it kind of goes with what Donna's saying about what's being dispatched. And from my personal experience, and this isn't an axe to grind, I have had dispatch tell both Adult Protective Services and 2 other callers that a domestic violence issue was a civil issue. Therefore, not dispatching anything. No deputy was even notified to make that call. A dispatcher made this call. The solution by the current administration was, well, he already quit, so it doesn't matter. My concern, I guess, comes that the dispatchers are no longer under the sheriff. They are now under a different supervisor who is limited in her experience with post-certification and things like that you know, are required by dispatchers. Are you wanting to put the dispatchers back under you so that the supervision and the continuous training is done, or are you comfortable with the way it is now?
So, until I get into that seat, I don't have a firm position on it either way. But what I do want to do is making sure that there's adequate training and synchronization going on, because the dispatchers and law enforcement works so close that we have to know what each other is doing and have to know their weaknesses and their capabilities. I would like to build a better relationship between the dispatchers and the law enforcement. And what I'd like to do is do training so that the deputies understand what's going on through the sequence of a call, so that they know what the dispatcher is doing and their limitations. And I know the dispatchers are required to do a ride-along, so that they can see the law enforcement point of view. As far as whether or not I would try to bring it back under the umbrella of the sheriff's office, that remains to be seen. I know who you're speaking of. I think it would be a great sit-down and conversation with her on how we can use lessons learned from the past to help build professionalism with them as well. You know, that's the professionalism that I'd like to bring in is not just at the deputy level. It's with all entities, I guess, under the sheriff's umbrella. So that's kind of how I feel pertaining to that particular circumstance. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Ma'am,
Sorry.
you're good.
Now I know the radios are analog and digital,
Yep.
and a lot of the times deputies are running the one that the regular, it's encrypted and you can't hear it. what's going on.
Mhm.
But I do know too that when we're going on a scene, or we're all going on to, up to a scene and that, and we can't communicate, and we can't hear what they're saying, and they can't hear it, and they can hear what I'm saying, it gets really, I don't know.
Stressful?
Stressful.
Yes.
Communication
That's a good
sucks.
communication, really, I mean, it's always done. And, that, because there's been times where we were going out, and if you don't watch your ears, and that, I mean, and they would be coming up on you, and you go, wanna go past the car and stuff, it's like, oh crap, they're here, and, and there's been some close calls in that. What is your opinion on doing the analog and stuff? I know the one, everybody and their cousins can hear it,
Mhm.
but there's gotta be a way to where, I mean, even with me, just throwing like radio down on the seat as I'm driving, at least I'm listening to what's going on and who's gonna be there and stuff. And that kind of settles me down a little bit, because when I don't know what's going on, and I'm the first one on scene, it's, and you don't know if they're coming behind you, or if they're, even not even coming.
Yep.
How would you work that?
I'm gonna have Tony hit on that a little bit.
Yeah, so I think it's a well-known thing that we have some radio issues. A lot of it's training. I didn't even know how to.
They can't hear enough until we encrypt
Right.
it.
I didn't even know I could put my radio on analog until several months in. So there's some training that needs to be done at our level, at the deputy level, to ensure that we're able to communicate with you guys. I know now. I know if I'm going on an EMS call or you guys are going to be there, I switch to digital so I can talk to you. So we have some work to do, but I think first and foremost is training our guys on what to do.
And also with that, one thing I'd like to institute is, it's called a PACE plan, and working through our primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency ways of communication. Right now, if the radios don't work, you're up the creek. So, sitting down with all agencies and building a plan that works for any situation. And not only building that, but doing communication exercises to work out these issues prior to an actual emergency. You shouldn't be screaming down the road trying to get somewhere and having these issues and not have already trained and rehearsed them. So.
You see, and with me, I just have my handheld, so.
Yep.
I'm really at a loss because I don't have a base
Yep.
station or a big antenna or anything in my car to even hear it, and a lot of times I don't hear even what's going on, and that, which, is kind of nerve-wracking.
Sir.
2 points. One is, fortunately, Bernie O'Malley, before he became the sheriff, was my training officer when I was the fire chief. When he went on board, it was simply, you must be on analog if it's a situation where there was more than your entity running. In other words, it was going to be sheriff, plus fire department, plus EMS, etc., will all be on analog, and that was just an absolute. The other thing to think about is you get a heck of a lot of good public relationship if people can hear what you're doing.
You're not hiding anything.
Okay? When it first became available through a grant for the scramble stuff, there was a terminology, but for regular information, a lot of people have the ability to listen, and they would actually see what you guys are doing. I don't know. I just, having played the PR game somewhat in my past lifetime, I sort of wondered about that.
Thank you for that. There are definitely pros and cons to it.
Sure.
And I would not be against that, but this is, again, a situation that we need to sync the entities together to make sure and build that SOP.
Yeah.
Ma'am, did you have something?
Just to build on what Bruce had said, we have now changed the Alert 911 community notification system. I believe this is the third time. So you get it all set up and you get the notifications when you need to shelter in place because they've chased somebody over the Idaho border. Maybe not. So I guess, is it something that you see as useful? But that's why we see not being on digital as useful, because we can hear it coming. I listen to Shoshone. So I hear Shoshone when they're chasing them over the pass, and I'm listening to us go.
Yes.
So, and there's been times when they've landed up here in Hagen. At 6 in the morning when you're out going to gather your wood, and suddenly we have a shelter in order place that is an hour old that didn't make it out. So, do you find those things useful, or is that why we want analog?
I do find those useful. They'd be useful if everything is, I guess, in a perfect world. So working out the bugs on that, working with the 911 center and figuring out that. And I don't know if that would be like a cell phone carrier issue, it coming an hour later, or
No, it was just by the time what we heard over the radio and what finally came out was an hour difference.
Okay, I see.
So, yeah, it was not prompt.
Yep.
It has not been consistent when we've needed it, it feels like.
Okay.
So, weather stuff, part of it is part of that service, and it was, but now we've changed to yet another one that you gotta sign up for. It's daunting.
I would like to take a good look at that and find the most feasible option for it. So.
The change has been recent from Alert 911 to, I don't know what we're using.
Code red.
What is it?
Code red.
Code Red?
Yeah, I think that's what it is,
Does it include weather too?
yeah.
So,
I signed up for it.
If the people in this room don't know, there's an issue. So we gotta figure that out, and that's through community dialogue. That's how we fix it. And
Alert 911 worked well with fire as well, the fire agencies within the state, Idaho and Montana. So we were getting weather, fire, and LEO.
okay.
So I don't know about this new one. As you can hear, most people didn't sign up for it yet.
I will. We're putting that on the list of RFIs for us to work on.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I heard about it was like a week ago on Facebook, so.
Yeah, that's our third version now.
Ma'am?
I know I'm late to the party.
Oh, you're good.
So if this has already been answered, I can talk to you later. But I'm wondering what either of you may know about an incident in St. Regis this past weekend where sheriff's deputies apparently unauthorizedly entered a private home with no warrant, with no reasonable probable cause, and breathalyzed 14 teenagers. Now, this is hearsay, I'll give you that much, okay? 14 teenagers without an adult present, even though an adult was in the facility, in the home. And if you don't know about it, how would you have dealt with it?
I'm aware of that situation. I don't know what the current administration is doing about. Yes, it was in Superior.
Really?
Yep. There were some issues with that. You're very correct with. I'm trying to since this is an ongoing deal, I'm trying to tread a little bit light. I know that this is a firm case of lack of training. You know, there may be some remedial training needed for the folks involved. You are correct in there possibly being some issues with those individual civil liberties. So I think it is a good example of an incident that the sheriff's office could learn from. I don't want to say too terribly much because it is ongoing, and I don't want and I don't want to say anything I say. I don't want it to be perceived a dig at the current administration. I have no ill will against Sheriff Funk. I just see differences in the way I would like to run that. So, sir.
So if that was the case, just in a scenario that was the case, and it did happen, would this be something that you would be allowed to, somebody would be able to allow to come publicly and go, look, on the training part, we made a mistake, we want to apologize, nobody was hurt, what's that? Take ownership of making a mistake, that there was a mistake made? Or would you think that somebody would be just trying to sue the, sue our county over an honest mistake? Would that be something the county would, the sheriff's department would be able to apologize or something like that? Because mistakes happen, none of us are perfect.
Absolutely, I am a firm believer in mistakes happen. And if a mistake happens, we should take ownership of it. And this is a good opportunity. That scenario would be a good opportunity for a clear and honest conversation with the public. I know if we have the opportunity to get elected, if something happens, we're going to come forward and say, hey, we messed up. And this is how I want to reinstill the trust in the organization, because the people of this county are smart and they understand an honest mistake instead of trying to cover it up or shift the blame somewhere else. So,
because, if you made a mistake, the current, what we got in there currently, they don't make any mistakes. Everything is infraction.
Yeah, but if you legally admit to a mistake, don't you set yourself up for a lawsuit?
that's going to be a question for an attorney, but once that conversation is had with the county attorney, it's perfectly okay. Like I see it on the national stage. I've seen it several times where an agency will come forward and say, hey, there was a mistake with this issue, blah, blah, blah. I have no problem coming to the public and saying that we made a mistake. That's what, again, the sheriff office works for the people. And the people would appreciate honesty and transparency when it comes to anything, even if we didn't do it right.
So you think this is something that should come to the public for discussion and not be hush, hush, hush?
I am not going to, since this is an ongoing issue, and I do not have all the facts.
I'm just using this as an example.
Yep.
It's not, I'll just tell you, there was 20 kids up there partying, but, they were at my place partying, there were some mistakes made.
Exactly. I have more respect for someone that can do that than someone that says, you aren't allowed to ask that question.
Yes.
Which I admit, I asked the question in public. I didn't do it to start a problem. I did it because our community needs to know that this potential issue happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it doesn't get said aloud, then it's going to get rumored about behind backs, and that's how we have a bigger problem in the end. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're right. You should have thrown 20 of them out.
Yeah.
For this particular issue, I'm not gonna speak on.
I respect
it,
that.
But in a situation where a mistake has been made, let's get it out in front of them and move on with life. So. Sir.
Different deal. Along with the reserve deputy, the fact that you don't have enough people, you might consider promoting the neighborhood watch concept. I had put that together for this end, trying to get a sheriff involved, not interested at all. But it would bring more of the community together in each area to help a reserve or to provide information to you, etc.
I am definitely not against that. That's a great way to get some cohesion within the community, and at least a system where we can get like a system where we can have like a one-stop shop with information. Like
Yes.
that is the information. This person is going to relay it to us on a regular basis so that we can create that dialogue. I'm definitely not opposed to it. So.
Well, it would be one of the things that the sheriff might want to encourage.
Yeah, and I'll say, at least from my experience, those things are already happening, right? You guys are already talking about stuff going on in the community, in your own little section of the community, and that happens everywhere, so why not tie it all together and legitimize it?
Exactly.
It's almost a force multiplier.
Yeah.
I asked the other candidate, as well as I'm asking you, to consider going through the Department of Justice to get a crime victim advocate, and perhaps encourage someone from St. Regis or West to be that advocate, because I've seen what the crime victim and the DV victim advocate can do in the immediate aftermath of a crime, and it can potentially, lighten some of your load where the deputy's not having to answer calls of where do I get help for this or that. I ask that you would consider looking into that and not letting it fall just under the county attorney's department, but if you have to, work with them for a full crime victim advocate, not just a DV advocate.
On the federal side, we did have a crime victim advocate, and they were worth their weight in gold. A lot of times, they could handle a situation with more finesse than an agent. And so, having seen what they can do and the capabilities they can bring in an investigation, because they're not working in a vacuum. If they make the victim comfortable, that victim will likely be able to recount more and help on the investigation side. So it's a win-win situation. With that, I would love to explore different options to build that relationship. They definitely do. We don't have currently a lot of special victim type assets in this county, and one area that I would like to grow in is see if we can get some kind of soft room when it comes to having sexual assaults and domestic violence situations, having a place that you can go, or the victim can go and have one of the hardest conversations of their life, and so instead of on the side of the road or at a house or this, that, the other, have an area that would be tailored to that. So.
Then you want to explain what soft room is?
Yes, thank you. Basically, a soft room is typically an interrogation room is pretty bland. It has not a lot on the walls, a couple chairs, table, that's it. And that's typically intentional. A soft room is a room that is a little bit more inviting and will make typically a victim more comfortable. A lot of times it has a couch in it or plants and soft lighting and things of that nature.
Third room.
Very, very close.
Sorry.
Very close, yes. But I think that is on my long-term project list, is bringing something like that to this county. So, thank you for that. All right. If there's no more questions, we definitely can take an intermission or pause or whatever, and I'm going to stay around till we're done and no one wants to talk to me anymore. So, all right. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you.